What's up, guys? Josh Carter here, the Resistance Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. You are listening to the new sound of the counterculture. Joining me tonight, once again, repeating guests are Brandon and Brianna from Red Light Rebellion. Hey, guys.
What up?
They are very enthused because they've got some super awesome stuff that's going down this January 2018. If you don't know out there, January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and so this is directly pertinent to what they're doing. They're unrolling a huge, awesome campaign. They're doing a lot of really cool stuff. Really uh, working with a lot of youth and trying to create this sense of awareness about this growing insidious industry that is the human trafficking industry. And I just really wanted to just promote what they're doing and really just encourage you to support them in what they're doing because it's great work. So guys, it's been 9 months since you came on the show last, and
Someone had a baby since the last time we were
Oh my
here.
gosh.
wait, what
Oh, I said someone had a baby since the last time we were here.
was that? Me? Did I have a baby? Did you have a baby?
No, not us, but
Not,
someone.
not you guys. Yeah. So no, it's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy. 9 months is a lot of time. You guys have had a busy 2017.
Yes.
I want to start our episode tonight with kind of recapping your 2017 before we get into all the stuff that you're doing in 2018 because you guys have been busy. And so why don't you kind of explain a little bit about what you've accomplished this past year or last year, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
it's definitely been our busiest year so far. So we do classroom presentations, which is actually the main thing that we do. So we hang out with groups of students from either one day or the same group of students all the way up to 5 days. And then usually most of the classrooms are like a normal classroom of 20 to 30 kids. And so in 2017, we did over 247 presentations.
And that was in schools and churches and other nonprofits or different sectors of society. So that was students, that was trainings for professionals, that was parent trainings, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and total number of people we presented to was just over 4,400 people. And we hung out with almost 40 different agencies throughout the year. So it was actually kind of a big feat for our huge staff of the two of us.
Yeah, so and we did some new stuff. We worked with a school that is they take in a lot of, they're kind of like the last stop before the education really can't help students anymore that are struggling for whatever reason with school. A lot of that is behavior issues, them getting into like the wrong crowds and the wrong kind of things. Others of it is them either having some sort of like disability, whether it's cognitive or behavior or emotional. But they really, it's like only 100 students on campus, but they're having situations where students are actually recruiting each other into sex trafficking, buying each other, and selling each other. And so,
No way.
yeah. And so it was crazy. And so we had an opportunity to work with them in a way that we haven't before. And we're hoping in 2018, more so than 2017, that we'll be able to build on a lot of the things that we did with them earlier this last year, so that our programs can go even deeper. We spend a lot of time with students, and sometimes it's one day, and we're like, man, 45 minutes is not enough time. So we're excited to see where that might go. We want to reach as many people as possible, but also go in depth as well. So.
That is insane. Absolutely insane to me to think about what you just said is that, some students trafficked each other, or got, brought other students into human trafficking. And it's one of these things where it's like this industry is this constantly evolving, shifting, metamorphosizing sort of thing where it's like, and the conventional perception of human trafficking is that this is something that just happens in third world countries, and it's a very caricatured sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming to the realization, being educated in the fact that this doesn't just happen in third world countries, and that it happens in your own, backyard. We had trafficking happening in Appleton, which is just a city just north of us, and that it could happen pretty much anywhere in the U.S. I remember that was like, a revelation that was mind blowing enough.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, you compound that where it's like, and it's not just these shady low life, you know, uh, you know what I'm saying, like the comic book sort of
Yeah.
villain type guy who's
Mm-hmm.
doing this. You got actual kids who are being manipulated into selling each other into trafficking. I mean, that's just insane. So as you like did your presentations for like over 4,400 people and worked with a whole bunch of different agencies last year, what were some of your takeaways from that, um as far as um the progress you made in 2017, and what you want to focus on in 2018?
Mm. It's a really good question.
Yeah. I feel like we really started to nail down like the curriculum that we're using in classrooms, and actually this summer we refined some huge pieces of it in talking about uh, we actually have students self-identify their core vulnerabilities to manipulation, which again is how sex trafficking happens. So they do that, but we put a huge emphasis on resiliency and overcoming just things in life. And so we really wanted to like figure out how to paint that picture. So we like do a few activities that show the difference between like coping with the things that come up and then actually dealing with them and taking them head on. And um, so that's something that we started to do. We like revamped our whole healthy relationships part of what we do too, which is like so much fun. We like came up with a formula for real love because pimps are pretending.
Why don't you drop that right here?
So
First,
to have real love, you have to have,
fuzzy feelings.
and then
So those warm, romantic butterflies in the pit of your stomach when you see that person.
So basically, when you feel like you want to throw up, that's what you need to have real love. Also, there's an acronym that we use called PEACE, and it stands for patience, empathy, acceptance, caring, and equality. And that those are rights and responsibilities that we all have within a relationship.
And we use that from a local agency here in Phoenix called Katie's Way. The mother of Katie started it. Katie was a girl, almost 10 years ago now. It was a murder-suicide. Her ex-boyfriend ended up shooting her and killing her after she broke up with him because of his violence. And so now the mom and the family started this agency to go out and spread awareness on healthy relationships. And so it's cool partnership for us to be able to bring their curriculum into what we do, and give it our unique spin.
So peace is the second part, and then self-love is the third part.
So the concept that we can only give what we already have, and so we truly have to be on a journey of learning how to love ourselves in order to love other people completely, and not looking to other people to fulfill us and complete us, but knowing that we can stand alone. And it's good to have people come alongside us in that journey towards self-love, but we're not putting all that pressure on one person because they can't ever fulfill that. And then the last one is commitment.
Well, and self-love as well too. What we bring into relationships is a lot of positive things and unique things and strengths. We also bring some of the like our struggles into relationships too, and so we really encourage people to start to work through that stuff and be the person for. Oh my gosh, I totally butchered that.
Be the person you're looking for is looking for.
It's okay. You have the rest of January to work on this.
Right, I know. Maybe next year. So there's that, and then commitment is the last piece. So whether it's the short-term commitment or long-term, and then figuring out if it's long-term or short-term, is it worth you committing your time to? And then once you do that, is it worth long-term commitment? So that's kind of like the overarching thing that we over.
Yeah,
So,
and
that's stuff that you've revamped as far as like adjusting to, okay, this is what we've kind of seen and witnessed, or like understood from the research that we're doing, and so now we have to adapt our messaging model to the youth to accommodate these shifts in our knowledge.
Yeah, and we had those presentations before. But well, I guess to be honest, they're kind of boring in comparison to the other stuff that we do. And there's just a lot of concepts that we wanted to bring forward that we weren't. So that was cool because our year, even though it's a new calendar year and like January is here with National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, we're still, to us, in the middle of our year because we function more school year to school year. And so we were noticing that those were really valuable lessons and messages, because we would get students that would come up to us after the Healthy Relationships Day before we revamped it, be like, thank you so much for coming. Like freshmen in high school, they're like, I've been in like 2 abusive relationships, 1 physical, 1 verbal, like, and I just thought that defined me, and that's just how relationships are. And now I know that like I'm worth more than that. And so we saw that it hit, but it was very few students, and so we're like, we need to figure out how to do this in a way that really engages all students. And so that's what I think we're able to accomplish over the summer 2017 to revamp for this school year. And the students are much more engaged in the classes when we're presenting those topics. I feel like we take them on a roller coaster of like funny and humorous and lighthearted to serious and like, hey, this is some real stuff that we're talking about and we got to deal with our shiz. And so
Yeah. By the way, their links are for social media are in the description, and I would encourage anybody who watches this to follow them on social media, because there was one that actually one post that they made that made me laugh ridiculously hard was the wrecking ball post, and I still today, like, I will periodically scroll back and rewatch that when I need a little uplifting during the days. But to know what I'm talking about, you have to go and follow them. So their links are in the description. No, it is insane because you guys are doing a lot of work directly with the youth, which I believe is very, very important. And you're talking about such a heavy topic and stuff. And here's the thing about schools, and I don't know. Yeah, you guys do schools, you do youth groups, you do all sorts of stuff. Looking back on my school education, I felt like we didn't really cover all of the essentials that I needed to really thrive in today's society. And one of those things is like personal financial planning. But nowadays, it's almost like you guys, it's almost like you guys should actually be on staff and actually teaching an actual full-time course, because this is such a growing problem. As you're calibrating to 2018 and you're looking to actively fight this problem, obviously you're making tweaks to your curriculum, but like you said, 45 minutes isn't, I mean, it's not, you can't teach a kid everything they need to know in 45 minutes. What are you doing to adapt to that, or make it like the most impactful experience you can?
So I think first, as far as depth, is through social media. So we've focused a lot more on social media in 2017 than we ever have before. And like 2016, I would be like, every few days you're like, oh, I should post something, and but 2017 we're like, no, we got to be posting every day. Like that is where society's at right now. And so if we don't meet the students where they're already at, then we've already lost. And so we're still learning. So social media is a science, and so we're still learning how to do it to the best of our abilities. It really does take like a full-time staff person to do that well. But at the end of every presentation that we have, or the end of our time with each group of kids, we are constantly or we do an activity to get them plugged in with us on social media before they leave the room, to make sure that if they truly want that information, if they want to continue that education and awareness, and know how to get involved in the cause, then they can do that. And so that's the number one for as far as like longevity and more depth, that we try to extend that 45 minutes into longer. And then two is as far as being engaging. So our presentations are not normal
And you guys are quite engaging, I promise.
Thanks. We try. We got to be cool.
Right.
But our presentations aren't normal presentations. Like we do a lot of talking in them because there's a lot of information to give. But we've got an amazing volunteer that has helped develop the curriculum, that is genius in activities and figuring out engaging activities for students that communicate the concepts that we're trying to bring forth, and help them discover some of those concepts on their own. And so that's one way. We also bring in Brandon's an audio engineer, and so got us hooked up with the sound system that we bring into.
We like to party in classrooms, so we make sure that someone somewhere comes to the classroom and says, "Can you guys please turn that down? I can't even talk to my other class." So once that happens, then we know
it's been a success.
Yeah.
But it's cool because I think it disarms students coming into the classroom. They're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's not every day that like you walk into your classroom and there's like hip hop or like dubstep bumping out of it. So we try and like keep it fresh and like just make it a different experience then, and just like shake it up a little from what people are used to showing up to every day. So yeah.
What's insane to me is that we have a friend of mine mentioned this. He's actually a merchant marine, and he said that to give some scope of the pervasiveness of this problem, the human trafficking problem, is that they have to take courses now to be able to identify, potential trafficked persons. In the merchant marines, I mean, it's just this all like it's this sort of problem that is emanating. It's not just this isolated sort of thing. It's everywhere. And it's insane to me.
Yeah.
And as you guys, what do you think is really at the root of this? Like, I mean, because this is a growing industry, and I know that you guys have mentioned that a lot of times pimps utilize social media, and that's a common tactic. Is that something that's happened a lot in recent years? Is that a development that's kind of this shifting sort of mutation of this disease that is human trafficking?
Totally.
I think it's creating almost more supply. So I think the root of it is ultimately demand, which you talk about a lot, and I know you're really passionate about, everything from pornography to straight prostitution and strip clubs and things like that. And so we see a huge piece of demand in it. But then I think social media, the way that plays a role is that not only are people being sold through the internet, but then because everyone's on the internet, like it's just, especially these younger pimps, because they know how to work it. Like older pimps, they're funny. They like hashtag their name all the time, not realizing it's searchable even to police.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, it's pretty funny.
You don't know what you're doing with the hashtag, man. Stop.
Yeah.
Or actually keep doing it,
No, right, exactly.
Because they're so pompous and arrogant that they're putting all their stuff out there and hashtagging everything, and so the police actually enjoy that with the older pimps. But the younger ones really know what they're doing, and so because it's a new generation, so we've got a new generation of victims coming through. We have a new generation of buyers, but we also have a new generation of sellers too. And so their methods are evolving with the generation's evolution as well.
Yeah, which naturally, I mean, it makes sense. What's interesting to me is that what you're talking about, a lot of what you do when you interact with students is that you're trying to, it's almost helpful on multiple fronts, because it's not just avoiding human trafficking, it's not just human trafficking prevention, which is obviously the most important thing, but you're also helping these students identify certain things in their lives that will actually be beneficial to them developing as individual adults,
Yes.
which is identifying, certain emotional weaknesses, the things that people can prey on to
Mm,
manipulate them. Um, is that accurate to say?
Oh,
very.
totally. Yeah, because we definitely don't want sex trafficking to happen. That's really bad, and that's like what we do is trying to make that stop. And we really believe the one of the key solutions underneath that is just recognizing the value of people. And if we can get students or just every so everyone in general just recognize the fact that every single person is a human being and that they have an inherent value that can't be compromised and is worth fighting for, and it's not something that can be sold or bought, then bad things wouldn't happen and the world would be perfect. But if we can even just get students to like see that value in each other, and especially in high school, there's so much. I just remember like affirmations and people just want to be accepted, and sometimes that means like pushing someone else to the wayside or like bullying and all of that stuff. And so we really believe that part of bringing justice into the world is recognizing that value, whether it's paying attention to what's going on in someone's life with maybe a sex trafficking situation, or just encouraging someone and bringing encouragement, to maybe intervening and even saying like, hey, it's not okay for this person to be pushed around because they're another person as well too. And so we really believe if attitudes and perceptions can change on what they think about other people and the value of it, that would be huge.
Now, what's interesting to me about you saying that, like in intervening and stuff like that in certain situations when you identify potentially, individuals that are in a manipulative, potentially abusive situation, things like that. Do you find that a lot of the difficulty comes from the fact that, you know, in our society, in a lot of ways, we're more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected from each other than ever, kind of like what we were talking about before we got on. And do you find that a lot of people don't want to intrude? Like I wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Do you find that people get shy when they're like, I wouldn't want to, potentially intervene and then have it be a wrong assumption or something like that?
Totally.
Yes.
Do you feel like that's a
Like
barrier to
you don't
trafficking
want to like
prevention?
hear someone screaming and then run in ready to stop something, and then people are just laughing hysterically at each other, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm awkward now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the joke.
Oh, right.
No, we've had some students DM us this school year, asking a lot of really interesting questions like, hey, I've got a friend and they are in this like abusive relationship, or I know that they've been sexually abused, like what do I do? And asking them different questions to try to figure out like, all right, what's the first course of action for them? It's interesting because to a point they want to help, to a point they're like, I have to do something about this, my friend's in danger. But then when we start saying, hey, you need to talk to their parents, or hey, you need to talk to like the counselors at school, things like that, and then they start to almost second guess themselves. And you're totally right, like there's such a fear of um, like overreacting. And so one of the things we say in the presentations is we'd rather overreact and be wrong than underreact and potentially risk an opportunity of saving a life. And so I think when we understand the severity of these issues, it brings urgency to responding to them properly. I think we're also very scared of losing friends. Like I remember one of my friends in high school, she just got involved in a wrong crowd. Like one of her friends had died, and she kind of just went off the deep end with drugs and alcohol. Tried committing suicide at one point, and I remember having a conversation with her and being like, "Hey, like I'm always here for you. Like we can hang out whenever. Like I have got your back, but I can't be around you when you're around these other people." And so where I could have said, hey, like, I'm going to go to these places. I'm going to make sure she's, like doing what she's supposed to do and things like that. But drawing a line risks the friendship. And so like, if it's, hey, like my friend's getting into like drugs and it's hardcore stuff and I don't want them to get into it. Like if I tell their parents or if I say anything, like I know they're not going to be my friend. It's like, but it's so much worth it when you could potentially help someone before it's too late. And so in the same way, when we're starting to see those warning signs of sex trafficking or abuse or these really dangerous situations, the sooner we respond, the better. And we could potentially lose that relationship because they're so brainwashed, they're so sucked in already that they can't see what's really going on. But you've just alerted everyone to have their back rather than just you, because you might be seeing things that their parents aren't seeing or their teachers aren't seeing because you're their friend. And I think that's the power of awareness to students, because victims never self-identify. Very rarely do they self-identify in sex trafficking. And so it's really up to the friends to see what's going on and intervene. And we've heard stories of friends that have, and like told parents and did things that the victim was just like, no, I don't want you to do this, and they did it anyways. Broke their trust even in a sense, and ultimately for the better, they're able to get them out of that situation. And so there's a fear there. We encourage students to push past that fear and have the courage and the bravery to actually say something.
Well, and on a less extreme scale or something like that, as someone who had a period of my life where, I was having a bout of toxic depression, and where like there was this negative, destructive cycle that was a bad pattern in my life, that was a destructive pattern in my life. It's something that I couldn't see on my own, and I'm assuming that victims of trafficking, or people that are in abusive relationships that are being emotionally manipulated, cannot see these things for themselves. And it was only after I got past that point in my life and looked back on that, and I had other people intervene in my life, where it was like, okay, yeah, now I can see where I was, but I couldn't see it at that time. And I'm assuming that that's the way it is, like you're saying, when victims rarely self-identify. Um, I'm assuming that that's the case. So what you're saying is one of the key ways of combating this growing industry of human trafficking is actually building stronger communities of people who can actually, engage with individuals on a meaningful level, and intervene when necessary, um, on a person to person basis, and people will understand in long run. Is that what you're saying?
Completely.
Yeah. Kind of like, I mean, like we were saying before, like no one wants to be that awkward person, like making a scene when there's no scene to be had. Um, but it would suck to lose an opportunity to save someone's life or to intervene in a situation like that when something is going wrong. And even if you do like step in and it's nothing wrong is happening, then maybe you can like make a new friend or something. Who knows? But what we do know is that minding our own business has literally helped 0 people in the history of the world. So that's
because it really seems simple. Like a lot of kids like ask, like, what can I do? Like, how can I help? Or how can I volunteer? Things like that. And it's like, man, like invest in your friends. Like if you do like this research, if you're working like on your own junk and you're bringing people into that space that can help you and walk you through in like a positive, like non-shaming, but challenging way, and you're doing that for other people, like that's prevention, and that's where prevention starts, and that's ultimately what's going to keep people safe from this kind of stuff, because if we're committed to the people that we care about and doing whatever we can possibly do in our own power to help them, if we see these situations, it's greater chances of them not happening or being carried out the way the pimp wants, and greater chance of being carried out how we want it to happen.
I think that's a really good way of putting it, because I think one of the dangers in the millennial generation and younger is that we presume, and this is like coming from someone who has been in that situation. We presume that just, buying the shirt, or, wearing the bracelet, or whatever, giving some money to an organization, we presume that we've done our part, and then we put all the responsibility on you guys. Oh, what can Brandon and Brianna do to prevent human trafficking? And that this is just this massive issue where it's like, okay, we need to expand our horizons and understand that it goes beyond just wearing some merch. Though the merch is very cool. Actually, that's what got me to want to have you guys on the first time.
Oh,
Nice.
yes.
Yes, I love the logo, I love the branding, I love all that, and that's great. And we can continue spreading awareness, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But it has to boil down to this idea of connecting with individuals and understanding, are individuals hurting on a certain level, or are they, being manipulated and coerced into certain things that they would never have done on their own. And that's one of the most insidious aspects of this particular industry, is that is so manipulative and is so exploitative that, it really strips people of their basic humanity.
Yeah.
And as someone who is a dedicated individualist, as someone who is constantly opposed to, these sorts of collectivist solutions to things, I'm actually saying to people that it is very, very important to create healthy, good, legitimate communities in which you can identify if your friend is struggling, or if someone is struggling or being manipulated, that you would have and this is tough for me because I'm a sort of non-confrontational individual.
Mm.
But to be able to act in the best interests of your friend, and even if nothing is going on, then maybe that's the basis for a good conversation of, oh, why did I perceive that something was going wrong? And you can even strengthen your relationship when it comes to that.
Yeah, totally. You want to say? A couple of things that you said that I thought were like really good, and it reminded me of the post yesterday that we did where it's talking about injustice, and some people get super mad about sex trafficking, but like kind of awkwardly walk away when someone's getting bullied. I think that we tend to care about issues that don't directly impact us almost. I think like if we have our own story and experience, it's obviously like we care about an issue. But I think if we don't think if it requires something of us, it's harder to actually be passionate about it. And so I think that it's quite challenging. Like, yeah, like sex trafficking is like this big, huge like deal. So, and no one really think it's going to happen to them or anyone that they know. And to some people that produces apathy, to other people it produces activism. But then when it actually requires something of us, when it requires us to give up a porn habit or stop going to strip clubs or stop calling like our friends bitches and sluts, like when it makes us not listen to certain music or watch certain music videos like that, then it becomes personal. And so in the same way, like community and relationships, like that becomes personal. That's challenging. That's hard. And that's messy. Like there's not rules to it. There's not, hey, this is how you go about this conversation exactly. This is how they're going to respond, and this is what you need to say. It's not like that. Like you're going to get hurt and you're going to hurt people's feelings probably. But I truly believe that it's worth it. And it's in that messiness, if we continue to like strive towards that, that we can really see like a huge impact and difference. And so, yeah, I think you're right on in what you're saying.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about that before we get into the details and let you guys unpack what you're doing in January 2018 and forward. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you mentioned in your last comment there, where you're talking about, giving up a particular habit, like a porn habit, or like, the way you interact with your friends, in certain elements. Now, I know a lot of people that are just like, what's the big deal about porn? It's just me. Like, I'm not really hurting anyone. I'm not, I'm just doing my thing. And as far as like, some people have a sense of humor where it's like they joke with their friends in a particular way, where it's like, aha, you slut, whatever. So certain people, like, there are different people with different temperaments. So like, are you saying that these things are harmful? Are you saying these things are toxic, or perpetuating this problem? Or are you just saying kind of be mindful about, the sort of implications your actions may have?
Yeah. You want to address that one thing? I can address that.
Yeah.
So as far as the words and what we say and like strip clubs, things like that, well, more the words. I think that you can't put a blanket like, hey, this is bad, don't ever call people a slut. Like, but it's one of those things where I think we don't realize how much of like the pimp, prostitution, sex trafficking culture has permeated mainstream culture and how we talk and how we treat people. And so I
What do you
truly,
mean by that? What do you mean by that?
so I think the most clear example, or the first one that comes to mind, is 50 Cent's PIMP song, Pimp, where he's talking about being a pimp. He takes you through the whole entire grooming process. And then he talks about how you essentially exploit someone and you tear them down, and how they actually truly feel about other people. And so when he's in that song talking about people being like bitches and hoes and things like that, it's like, and you know about sex trafficking, like instead of being like, yeah, this is like a good beat, like this is a good rapper, you're like, this is disgusting. Like how, like this is gross, and like how can people put this out there and us like buy into it, you know? And so I think that realizing like terms like um wifey and daddy and just different things like that that are common for us to say. Like there's certain roots of the things that we say, the things that are in our culture, the things that are in the music that we listen to, that are based in sex trafficking. And so I think we need to definitely be mindful of how we're talking to people. So for me, because of how many people that I know that are survivors, like the word bitch and slut and hoe and whore, like those upset me like no other. Like I'm like, say the F word, like, I don't care. But like it's like those terms that I'm just like, man, that just like hit something in me, because I know how people are treated. I know how people feel when they're called that all the time. And yeah, we can mean it as a joke, but so I'm really mindful of that.
Well, I think maybe a mainstream example too. And another mainstream example is that is of a taboo sort of word is like, I don't say the N word, because not because I don't think I can get away with it, but because it's because I understand the context in which, that can be used in a toxic fashion. I think a lot of these things that you're talking about, a lot of these words that you're talking about, maybe people don't fully understand like the connotations behind them. It's just like, oh, well, that's what 50 Cent said in a song, like it's not a big deal. Like don't freak out about it. But what you're saying was once you start working in this the anti industry, right?
Mhm.
When you work to combat this industry, you start seeing just how deep these sorts of things that we take for granted, and these trivial sort of nuanced sort of things actually become very serious and significant, and that's why you can look at those things and just be like, oh my gosh, I would not say those things because I've seen the depth. I've seen how deep it goes.
Yeah, totally. And then I think we think that things like pornography are just harmful all around too. So I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
address that.
like one of our friends, actually, one of the people that was in our wedding was actually trafficked through pornography. And so that's something that, regardless of what your personality is, where you come from, or what you believe, is just straight up harmful. Which I'm sure, since you promote Fight the New Drug all the time, like we do, a lot of your viewers know the harmful effects of porn, that it does affect the brain just like a drug. So not only are there harmful effects to the individual, but we know that without that, there would not be nearly the demand that there is for sex trafficking that there is today. And it's funny because we'll spend up to a full week with students, and when we do that, we end up talking about pornography on about the fourth day or so. And it's the whole time before we've been talking about pimps, we've been talking about the grooming process, healthy relationships, but we bring it into the demand part, and really shining a light on the fact that the only reason why child sex trafficking is a thing in our country today is because people, grown men and women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, are willing to pay money to have sex with children.
Yeah, yeah, and that's insane. Now,
If anyone
but
wakes up one day and just decides to do that, it's a progression that takes place. That's not normal in our society. So there's a reason why it's become common.
now let me ask you, because I do promote things like Fight the New Drug and stuff because I believe in what they do and all that. But I also have friends who do not see the big deal about porn and whatnot, and how it can potentially play into this. Let's say that you had someone in one of your presentations, and say they had that sort of mindset where it's like you're just like, I don't see what the big deal, you know.
Yeah.
How would you approach that individual? How would you, go about addressing that, where they're like, I agree with everything else that you're saying about pimps and, manipulation and healthy relationships, but I don't see what the big deal is over here. How would you address that?
Um, Man, I feel some of the ways that we do that is by telling the stories of people that we actually know, and actual accounts of people that it has affected. One of the vice officers that we work with has told us that she's had a hard time putting pimps in prison because pimps can film sex trafficking happening. Then, because of the legal system and porn, the fact that porn is legal, they can sell that as pornography, and she can't go about prosecuting them the same way and putting them in prison. And so, someone that's viewing pornography actually has no way to distinguish whether or not the person they're watching is a sex trafficking victim or not, because porn is all produced and made to look the same.
I think too, like it's also, so it's going to seem off topic, but I'm going to bring it back around. So we talk about like 50 Shades of Grey in the presentations when we're talking about pornography as an example of how porn has become just mainstream, and a lot of the students don't even realize that those movies and those books are pornographic because it's just so normal. They've grown up with it. But the storyline of 50 Shades of Grey is Christian Grey that was actually sexually abused by an older woman while he was a teenager, that has then begun to feed into this sexual appetite that he has. And then he intentionally targets and manipulates this younger girl to act out those fantasies. And so what frustrates me about that story is that people are enjoying it, and it's the product of sexual abuse. So in the same way, like not all pornography is sex trafficking, but I do believe that all pornography is exploitive, because when you look at the numbers and the studies that have been done of the porn stars, most of them have experienced sexual abuse prior to that. When you listen to the stories of survivors of sexual abuse, like our friend Leah, who's a survivor of sex trafficking, her sexual abuse started when she was 6 years old. By the time she was 18, she was in the strip clubs because she had no interaction with men that was healthy, and that it was appropriate for her age. And so she literally believed that that was all she was worth. She was a successful stripper. She was good at what she did, but she didn't think that she was good enough to do anything else. And so the people,
some people would say she's empowered just
some
by
people,
being successful.
yeah, but it's not, she had money, but that's all she had. And there's more to us than our bodies. There's more to us than money. Like we're a whole being. It's our thought life and our emotional life. And so when those things are not in sync in a way that is producing healthy living, then we really have to reevaluate our actions and the actions that we're promoting in other people. Because when those men were going to the strip club and watching Leah dance, they're promoting that lie that she believed that all she was worth her body. And that's all they were valuing her for, was her body. And so I think that it really is exploitive, because even a friend that we know that was a prostitute, she was never trafficked, although she had been around sex trafficking. She had a friend that was trafficked when she was growing up, but she ended up being a prostitute, did it willingly, very successful. But she said that her mind, her emotions were trapped, and she could not get out. She wanted to get out of that life, but she didn't feel like she could. She didn't feel like she was worth it. And we hear the same stories in the porn industry. Ron Jeremy, which is, they call him the king of porn. He's been in hundreds of X-rated porn films. He got into the porn industry.
And the Boondock Saints, I feel. It's also in the Boondock Saints.
But his story is he got into pornography when I believe he was living in New York with his girlfriend at the time. They were trying to get into acting, and couldn't break through. They had no food, couldn't pay for the place that they were in, and needed a place to stay, needed food to eat, or they're going to be on the streets. And they're like, hey, why don't we do porn? That'll give us a lot of money, and we can, kind of get by on that for now. he basically is kind of survival sex is what it was. And as far as minors go, survival sex is a form of sex trafficking. And so it's really interesting because you don't ever hear empowering stories for people going into the porn industry. And so I don't see how it can become empowering for them. There's an ex-porn star that's also come out of the porn industry that argues every porn star has been sex trafficked because you need force, fraud, or coercion. One of the main clinics that the porn industry used in Hollywood, that they would go and like do their STD testing and stuff, it was all a fraud. Like the woman that ran it wasn't even like a medical doctor. She was like a psychology doctor, and yet she was doing like medical testing, things like that. So it was all a big, huge facade and charade. So those are some of the things that I think we bring up a lot when people are like, hey, it's like not a big deal. And it's like, well, you don't know the stories of the people that you're watching. And when you don't know their stories, you can't say that what you're doing isn't making a negative impact. And you can't say it's making a positive impact. And so until we know those stories, until we know those people, we can't make that call. And I think because it's creating such a demand and you can't determine we're kind of talking about food before we went on air. Like you can't determine like what's organic or what's not. You can't determine what's fair trade, what's not, like in the porn industry, just by watching it. And so it's, as consumers, it's our responsibility to do the research. It's our responsibility to make sure we're consuming responsibly. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that people do need to take into account too is that well, you may not view it as a big deal. Um, it's one of those things where it's like you're talking about the money isn't everything. The money doesn't determine somebody's success in life or somebody's empowerment in life.
mhm,
And if you talk to virtually any psychologist and you talk to them about what is a healthy state of mind, what is a healthy basis for somebody to live by, I think most of them would probably agree with you. So this isn't this sort of like, well, I don't feel like this person should be making this lifestyle choice. It's more along the lines of what is a healthy life in psychological terms as well as economic terms.
yeah.
So it goes both ways, and people should consider that, because I think a lot of times when you raise concerns about, say, personal habits like porn use or things like that, that a lot of times people will raise the cry of Puritan or prude or things like that, where it's like they they don't want to intrude on their personal freedom. And I'm all about personal freedom personally. Like I don't really care what most people do, but I do think, like you're saying, it's about the consumer understanding what they're consuming and how that consumption affects other people and the people that they're consuming from,
Mhm.
and things of that nature. And I think when you do more research into the realm of human trafficking and even sexual exploitation or things of that nature, that begins to very very much change your perspective.
Mhm.
And it really, and it's not just like us sitting here like saying, oh, if you use porn, you're a bad person. No, it's more about a change in paradigm, a change in perspective.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and because we know too, man, so many stories of people's porn addiction or the recovery. Shame is something that's wrapped up in so much of it. And it's funny because science is starting to show that shame is like a disease, and the cure
What?
for shame,
Seriously?
yeah,
The way
sorry,
that the brain works with shame,
someone's
they're
calling me.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so and the way just like
Have you heard of Brene Brown?
No, I haven't.
Oh, she's amazing. I think you'd like her stuff. She's a researcher that's done a lot of research on like shame and vulnerability and stuff.
But it affects us like a disease where we like carry it and we can't seem to get rid of it. And it's interesting because the cure for shame that science is starting to show is actually relationships and human connection. And someone that's experiencing shame, that's like the ultimate risk, is like connecting with someone on that issue. And so it's typical of someone experiencing shame to push people away, to isolate themselves. But when we connect with people on those things, it actually relieves the shame. And more often than not, when we connect with our people that we would consider like really good friends, maybe even like a support person, most often they're like, hey, I'm here for you. Like, what can I do to help you? Like, I want to see you succeed in life. And um, especially with pornography, we never want to communicate that like someone is a bad person for looking at it. We know the average age of exposure is somewhere between like 8 and 12 years old nowadays. And so most people are addicted to it before they even realize like what's happening. And so it's something that we feel is super important talking about, because man, this is being thrown in our faces left and right all the time. And how do we navigate through a culture and a society where this is common, and realizing that just because something is common doesn't mean it's normal. And so we really try and like show the difference between what's common and what's normal today.
To use a cliche example, slavery was once legal in the United States. You know, that didn't make it right. You know, like, and I know that's one that's thrown out there all the time, but I mean, it's you know, it's a direct correlation. And I remember being, you know, I remember looking at porn for the first time. I want to say I was like 11 or 12 years old. You know, I mean, this was stuff like, and this was back in the days of dial-up. You know, where
you had to wait 10 minutes.
I mean, you had to have fortitude to access that stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, you definitely. I mean, it's definitely completely different arena from when I was growing up. Even like my dad was growing up, he was exposed to magazines. I was exposed to dial-up. You know, gradually loading images, and then and now you have like high speed internet where it's like you can get hardcore porn delivered directly to your smartphone, which a lot of kids are having nowadays. And you know, the kids are having sex younger and younger and younger. It's just this whole messed up cycle where it's like they're getting their sex education from porn, all that stuff, and from their public school, if their public school does anything with that. A lot of parents I know don't really do that. You know, it's just this dysfunctional cycle. It's messed up. But so now we get to the crucial point in our talk today, because I mean, you know, this is stuff that I feel is very important for people to be aware of, to know, to ask questions about, to wrestle with. Now, you guys have a Fight for Freedom campaign, and you rolled it out as of the new year, and we are fresh off the new year.
We are.
Let's see what we're on the 3rd of January. So I feel like I'm on the cutting edge of this.
Yes,
you guys kind of started unpacking this in one of your Instagram videos. I want to give you as much time as you'd like to go through each of the things that you are doing during National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and also going forward. So what is Fight for Freedom? So
it's us taking advantage of National Human Trafficking Awareness Month to spread as much awareness as we possibly can fit into a month, and the two of us can do plus our volunteers. So it started, the first time we did it was last January. And so we're doing it this January again, and we really feel that it's a great way to get people kind of on board and kind of push awareness all at once. I think obviously awareness needs to happen year round, but it's a cool way to start the year, and a cool way to put out content and things that we just haven't before, and to challenge us and our capacity to do those things. So Fight for Freedom is really what it sounds, is fighting for the freedom of other people that might be sucked into trafficking or potentially vulnerable to it, and being a part of that fight and giving people tangible things that they can do to join the awareness movement and the anti-trafficking movement. And so we've got quite a few things that we're going to be rolling out. This week we rolled out, let's see, new merchandise. So that was fun.
By the way, I am wearing my my Red Light Rebellion bracelet.
Yeah.
And I've got my shirt on. So
yes.
I fully endorse this the shenanigans here.
So we came out with 2 new t-shirts, one that's specific for Fight for Freedom, bracelet packs with pins, backpacks, sunglasses.
Yep.
So it's the first time we've released new merch in like a couple years. So it's been a long time coming. We're really excited about it. We've gotten really good response from it already. We've been sending out already a couple a few days of shipments. So that's been cool.
We're doing just different challenges through the month. And so again, it's the month that we want to like try and create as much awareness as we can, and really like give people the tools to create awareness in a way that we don't do throughout the rest of the year. To where we like create custom packages for people to post on social media, or to like do stuff with their friends, or to do events, or even to participate in fundraising. And so some of the challenges that we do, we'll do throughout the month, and then there will be giveaways and prizes. And so some of them will be, I think we're going to do Dab for Freedom again. Yeah. So you make a Fight for Freedom sign, and then you have to take a picture holding it, but not holding it, dabbing with the picture. And so the coolest one will get something.
This is why I leave the relevance to you guys, because I have no idea. I understand. I've heard of dabbing. I will leave that to you guys.
So yeah, we're still trying to keep up as well too. But I think we're gonna actually do another challenge too that we just came up with the other day.
Oh my gosh, Brandon came up with it the other day.
We're gonna,
okay. This is all on Brandon. If it lives or dies.
Saying, I think we're gonna do either, I don't know if we'll do 5 or 10 times fast, but saying National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Whoever can get through saying it like 10 times fast in a matter of 25 seconds, or the fastest in 25 seconds, will get a gift card or something too. Just because it's such an awkward phrase to say.
It's way too long for a hashtag, like you had said before.
Yeah, it's just, so I think that would be fun to do. And then we'll have different stuff to post as well too. And we have some other cool things too, like TP for Freedom. So if you know someone that probably wouldn't call the cops on you for TPing them, then we have a pre-written letter that you can leave on their door saying that they've been selected to fight for freedom and fight for justice.
It's for freedom, so it's okay, guys. It's okay.
And that for a donation of $20 that you'll come sometime in the next couple months to clean it up. For a donation of $50, you'll come that week to clean up. But for a donation of $100, you'll come that day to come clean up that TP.
These are slightly inflated numbers.
Yeah, so whatever the numbers work out to, it's something like that. So
so yeah, so we have different challenges, and there's going to be a new challenge every single week. So this week the challenge is so we have a media kit, which is the first time we're doing it. We're really excited. Brandon did an amazing job on all of the graphics. He's been pumping it out, and sort of. So I'll have a link in our bio on Instagram. We've also been posting links on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. You can download this social media kit. It'll take you to a Google Drive folder, and it's different images that you can then post on your social media. And we have pre-written captions for that too, if you want to use them. And then you can tag us, and it's a quick, simple yet powerful way to spread the word about what's going on this month. And so our challenge for this week is to post one of those by tomorrow at noon. We're going to be selecting the winner, and they're going to be getting their choice of one of our wristband packs, our brand new wristband packs, and a fidget spinner. So those are the kind of challenges we're going to be doing each week. We did social media kits. We're also going to have a fundraiser. So not only is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month too long of a phrase, but National Human Trafficking Awareness Day is as well. And so that is January 11th. So next Thursday, and we are launching a fundraiser until the 19th. So 1 week. We're wanting to raise as much money as possible. So it's really cool about how we do things at Red Light Rebellion is we do not charge for our presentations whatsoever. The only time we ever charge anyone is if we're having to go and travel out of town. But then it's literally just travel costs and lodging. And so
that's actually really important. How do you guys actually make your living here?
Yeah, so we actually just have private donors cover the costs of what we do. So we are in the process, continued process of it all the time for Red Light Rebellion. So we have people donating to the organization So it just goes straight into its programs. And then we have another group of just individual donors that donate to our salary specifically. So we keep those things.
You can actually live under a roof, and
exactly.
Yeah. I want to let everybody know who's listening to this program that that there is a very, very little money in activism and following your passion in life, especially when that passion is justice. So these two, what they're doing right here, they're not just making a whole t-shirt line and reaping a bunch of profits. They're actually, you guys are actually creating value for young individuals, and you're I mean, you're living as best as you can according to your individual donors. So I wanted to highlight that fact too, because a lot of times it's very easy to look at cool hip movements that brand their stuff very well and be like, oh, a lot of that's probably just siphoned into corporate overhead. That's not the case with you guys. You guys are doing it because you love it, you're passionate about it, not necessarily because you're making a ton of money off it.
For real. And we've had so amazing people support what's happening, and even like our office space in here. I'll just give everyone a quick tour.
The bike shop.
Yep, the bike shop. We've got a unipedal unicycle over there. But this whole like space that we're in right now, that's not a 1-bedroom apartment to function out of. It's actually donated to us, and we don't have any overhead for it.
No rent.
Yeah, no rent.
Electric. No internet.
Yeah, so it's insane how much of right now what people donate go into the programs towards Red Light Rebellion, and then so it's we have a lot of awesome people supporting us.
So I didn't mean to cut Brianna off there, but I just had to emphasize that point, is that a lot of times fancy trendy movements they tend to exploit the consumers of their products, but that is not the case with you guys, and that's really why I like having you guys on and just showcasing what you're doing, is because you are genuinely doing it for the passion of doing it, and that, I believe, is very, very important.
Yeah. So that fundraiser is cool. I think outside of my mom, all the money that she raises, all the money is going to go into back into the presentations, back into the programs. My mom's like, "Can I raise money for your guys' salary as missionaries?" And I'm like, "We can do that, Mom."
Oh, Mom, you're so sweet.
Right. Coming in clutch for those bills next month. But yeah, so it's cool is it's called a peer-to-peer fundraiser, which means that you can sign up as a fundraiser. So you're helping us reach more people that might want to support this movement, and can ask people for one-time donations or even monthly donations. And you can pick what bracket you're donating to. What's cool about it is this year as we were thinking about the fundraiser, we wanted to do something more than just awareness. Detroit Love on Our Arms is an organization that I followed for a really long time, and a lot of the money that they get, they give back to helping like fund people to go to counseling and things like that. And so I was like, man, that'd be cool if, as an awareness agency like Detroit Love on Our Arms, we did the same and we gave back to aftercare. And so we're going to take some of the money in each bracket. We've kind of figured out how much that is to give back to survivors. So at one level, you can help provide art therapy kits to survivors as they're going through their healing. Another level is to sponsor about an hour's worth of counseling for a survivor. And then another level is to sponsor a survivor to be here at a local aftercare program for a month. And so we're really excited about that, and for some of the money that people raise, not just to go to awareness, but to aftercare as well, because all sides of this movement are important and necessary. And so we want to be able to support that too. And so that is launching on the 11th, but anyone can sign up at any time. And so the URL for that is support.redlightrebellion.org/fight for freedom. That can also be found on our website. or the links in our social media as well. So we're really excited about that because we just want to do more awareness. We want to reach more schools and more students. And so students can do that. Schools can sign up. You can be an individual doing it. You can be a team doing it. So that's cool. What else are we doing?
Well, you're doing a cool, aren't you? I don't want to jump the gun, but aren't you doing a concert at the end of the month?
We are.
We are.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
We should live stream that. That'd be cool.
Oh, we should. That's a good idea. But yeah,
great ideas abound right here.
Oh, right. But yeah, some really awesome friends have got a really legit local band that plays all over town to do this for us, and they're hosting it in their backyard, which holds, I think they said,
I don't know,
80-ish people. I don't know. It might be something like that. We don't know how many people can fit, but
it's a cool space though. It's like in the historic district. It's like a really cool spot.
Yeah, so they're doing all of it and organizing it and putting it together, and so that's such a huge thing to take on to help support us and to be a part of Fight for Freedom. So
well, I don't know what your guys' experiences is, but I feel like. And back in my more religious days, I wrote this blog about God being in a mosh pit or something like that. But it's there is something very, very cool about this live music experience, and then there's this sort of unspoken community that happens between people in these sorts of instances, and so I think that, you know, if people are able to go, like you said, it's this pretty reputable local band that's doing this to help promote what you guys are doing, and that'll just be such a cool experience that I feel like if people are in your area and they're able to go to this, because this would be a very, very insanely cool experience. Also, you would be helping a great cause.
Yeah.
And there's dinner. So
yeah, there's food.
There's that.
And there's food. There's food. What more could you want?
Seriously. And then so that's January 21st.
Yes.
January 21st. Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday.
Which January 21st for you guys is very different than January 21st up here.
Yeah, aren't you guys like wearing shorts and flip-flops?
Yeah, we are definitely not wearing shorts. The other day it was -4 when I got out of work, and it felt like -19 degrees.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever seen weather like that in my entire life.
You know what? You are lucky. Consider yourself among the fortunate.
Just to Arizona, and we can all do it together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I fully intend. Like I said, I have a podcasting buddy that's moving down to Arizona. I fully intend, because I know multiple people in Arizona now, you guys included. I fully intend to do a vacation down there and hopefully outweigh some of the winter. But,
yeah,
but yeah.
So yeah, so we have, what do we go over? Merch,
Fight for Freedom,
the fundraiser. Challenges,
benefit concert,
social media kit, and then we're also doing podcasts. So speaking of podcasts,
oh yeah,
so
now tell people about this. I want people to know about this as well, because you guys just posted your first one the other day, which was live for, what'd you say, like 24 hours or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
But people are really going to need to stay tuned to your social media to catch these, unless you're reposting them at some point at a later date.
Yes,
another forum.
So our plan is to live stream them while they're happening on Facebook and Instagram, and then we will edit those videos and release them. Hopefully, the one that was yesterday was spontaneous because our friend was in town. We're like, dude, we like gotta get you on this. So that'll be released probably next month. We're doing one on the 13th, which is next Saturday. And that's cool. I'm so stoked for that. That is with a vice detective here in Phoenix. She's an undercover, and her sole job is to rescue girls and boys out of sex trafficking. And so she works really closely with survivors. One of the survivors she actually arrested in a sting operation. She helped get out of jail, and now they work together and travel and do trainings and presentations. And she's a wealth of knowledge, super cool person. And so we're going to have her on next Saturday. I forget the time, but we'll be posting it on all our social media to give people a heads up. And hopefully that video, we're planning on that video being on YouTube. So we'll live stream and then edit it, put the videos on the final edits on YouTube with everyone's like handles for social media and stuff. And hopefully that'll go up before January ends. And then what else are we doing? Podcast. Oh, Get Schooled. Want to talk about Get Schooled?
Yeah. So we're gonna do 4 weeks of a more in-depth, kind of just probably more conversation about what goes into sex trafficking, some more stories, what goes into prevention, more stories that we usually don't have time for in classrooms, and there's a lot of stuff that we feel that we're like, man, there's so much more stuff that we want to give people in presentations, but in 45 minutes, there's not a lot of time. So for the people,
Twitter only has so many characters. So
yeah. So for people that
I'm done with Twitter. I'm good for you guys. Fight the good fight.
Tweeting away. So yeah, for people that are wanting more to know a little more of the ins and outs of how it actually works, how it happens, and then what it takes for prevention. We're gonna do 4 weeks of a more in-depth thing where we'll actually do like live trainings with that. So we're really pumped about that. It's gonna be on Tuesdays. And so we're doing the first one this Tuesday. I think probably around 5:30. 5:30 is when we're doing it. And then for the rest of the month, they'll be a little bit later. So we're pumped. It'll be the first time that we do that. So,
and we're doing that. So we don't want it necessarily to be for anyone and everyone to see. We want it for people that really want to know more. And so it's a sign up that you do. And we created another Instagram account. It's RLR Get Schooled is the handle. And so just by friend requesting us, we'll see that you follow Red Light Rebellion and stuff. And so that's an automatic sign up for you. And so the details we'll be posting. So it's a private account. So we'll actually accept your friend request and then do the live stream just for those select few. And so it's designed to be a smaller group so that we have more of that conversation and interaction, are able to answer questions more in depth. Whereas like our live stream on Friday, we're just kind of like going through like our agenda and stuff. And so this will be much more conversational to ask more questions. And we'll be going through even the different types of prevention, because we do primary prevention. There's other types that are more in depth. There's law enforcement role, legislative role, as well as aftercare. So we'll be addressing those topics primarily throughout those videos. So it's cool. What else are we doing? Or do you have a question?
No, do you guys think that's enough for 1 month out of the year?
Yeah, so I think Fight for Freedom for us has been. Oh, you're saying we're doing too much.
No, what I'm saying is you guys have a lot on your plate. You guys have a lot on your plate. Do you have other things that you're doing this month, or is that you don't? Because that is like 1 year's worth of work in 1 month.
Yeah. Presentations usually don't kick up for the spring semester until like late January, because school's just kind of starting back up again, and a lot of students are getting new teachers and things. So we usually don't get requests until last week or so of January. So really this is all we've got going right now.
Yeah.
Except for like other administration tasks. So I feel like we're missing something. I don't think.
You guys have the board behind you and everything, so.
I know.
Yeah, we just got this giant sheet metal wall in here where we can write all of our ideas and things on here. So it's been pretty de-stressing to have things that not all crammed in your brain.
I have to laugh because have you ever seen that meme of it's like Charlie Day and he's like got this like board with all the red yarn lines connected and stuff like that, like conspiracy theorist board and stuff like that. And people like put in different captions or like me when I talk about the Fed or whatever.
Oh, right.
It's like like looking all crazy and stuff. Yeah, that's what I picture with your board behind you. That's why I was wondering if you guys have your sights bent on world domination.
Exactly.
Some Pinky in the Brain status
Yeah.
right there.
Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
So that's what you're focusing on this month. And well, obviously going forward though. I mean, you want it to carry beyond this, but that is your main focus for January.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot of stuff, but ladies and gentlemen, I definitely would encourage you to check all of this stuff out. I definitely follow them on their Instagram accounts that they're promoting. I've got my gear. You should get your gear too. It's at Red Light Rebellion's website. But definitely check out what these two are doing because it is incredible work, and I believe that is work that will leave a lasting legacy with the youth. And I want to make sure that these two are able to continue doing it. So check out all this stuff that they've been talking about. So you guys after January, are you guys going to take any sort of break, or are you just going to continue just going?
We're gonna take probably from the end of January till May just off. We're gonna sleep in every day, make some martinis.
I don't blame you.
I'm just kidding. Actually, it's gonna be the exact opposite. So here's actually something that we're starting to develop this year. The goal is to have it ready to like officially be able to roll out anytime starting January 2019. But this year we're piloting an assembly program and building that for the first time. We've been getting more requests to do those, and we definitely believe our greatest impact and depth is in the classroom with smaller groups, but we definitely want to be able to facilitate requests to present to thousands of people at the same time. And so just to like reach as far as we can and present to as many people. But with that, we are developing that and have some dates to start piloting it this year. So that's a big thing for us that
which means no sleep.
Exactly. So that's a big thing for us that we'll be refining. And the first dates for it are actually in the first is
March 1st and 2nd.
The very beginning of March. So probably at the end of January all the way through February, we'll be
just through Friday, guys.
Just through Friday. January through Friday. Yeah, I love that week. Anyways, all the way through February, we'll be just nailing that down. Yeah. So
we've been trying to get better at rest though this last year and taking full days off, at least one every week.
Yeah.
And we really realized that we need about a week in the fall and the spring off, and then about 2 weeks in the summer. And so that's a goal of ours. I don't know when that will end up happening. Hopefully all the schools will be on spring break at the same time. We won't have any presentations during that week, and that'll be our break too. But yeah, January is literally just the beginning for the launching pad for the rest of the year. So we'll be going full steam.
Well, and that really is important that people have to realize that there is a gap between awareness and action, and that and that you guys can do so much when it comes to awareness, raising awareness. What you are doing is you are educating the youth. You are giving them tools to be able to create a better future for them and their peers. But at the end of the day, what matters is action. And if people take those tools and they utilize those tools to create something better.
Yeah.
And so it's great to carry the world on your shoulders, but you also need a break once in a while too.
Right.
And you guys are equipped to carry a lot of the world on your shoulders, but you do need to take a break once in a while. So um, I would very much encourage people to take the tools that they're giving you and to actually turn them into meaningful action. And hopefully people won't have to encounter this.
Mhm.
But if this were the case, that you would be equipped to deal with that when necessary. So
Yeah.
that's what I would suggest. So I mean, a lot of people like they sort of place this over reliance on the organizations that are creating this awareness, but ultimately it boils down to the individual.
It really
Would
does.
you agree?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, everyone makes their own choices. And so if, again, everyone's making choices to value each other, then a lot of problems would go away. So that's a big part of our goal.
One of my organization crushes growing up was Invisible Children, and they work with child soldiers in Africa. Yes, I like wanted to be a roadie so bad.
Me too. I'm right there with
It's
you.
like my dream. And so what I loved about them was their message was that our liberty is bound together. And that when one of us is suffering, all of us are suffering. And I think in certain regards in certain areas and topics, I think our generation, just in general, is kind of waking up to that. But I think in another regard, we're almost apathetic to seeing a lot of things that are going on. And I think some people either think they can't do anything or think that they have to do huge things or else they can't do anything, and they want to do the big things. And we hear a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do what you guys are doing, or oh, I wish I could do that. And it's like, you don't need to. Like, you need to go out and you need to care about the people around you. You need to look out for people. You need to speak up when you see something that's wrong. And if you are your best authentic self and are advocating for those around you, like these things are going to get solved. We're going to be able to address this kind of stuff. And yeah, I definitely think it's really our goal is to like activate the individual into justice. And so
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon and Brianna, I want to thank you both for coming back on. It's been a pleasure as usual
thanks
to
for
talk to
having
you
me.
guys, to interact with you.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's been
I'm
fun.
very excited. I'm very excited for what you guys have going on, to see what you guys do in the future, and I will be constantly rooting for you guys and your success because you guys are good people. You're good people. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out what they're doing, like I said, their links are in the description. You can check out what they're doing specifically for the Fight for Freedom campaign by listening to what they were mentioning earlier. As far as myself, we're looking at going on a little bit of a hiatus here. We'll see how that looks as far as future shows in the future. But for right now, just taking some time focusing on my girls, my wife and family, and just making sure that all of that time is well invested. But I want to thank you all for your support. Um, and we'll see what the future holds. We'll just leave it open. So, Brandon and Brianna, thank you both for coming on again. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you guys the best.
Thanks. We do too. Thanks so much for having us on.
Seriously.
It's been a cool friendship we've been able to.
Yeah, we're pumped to have gotten to know you and excited to continue to get to know you more and take you out when you come to Arizona.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you guys take care. Thank you so much for tuning in, for everyone who listened tonight, and we will catch you at a future undetermined point.